welcome to another. Hello, and welcome to another podcast of the People's Rebuttal podcast. Uh, got your host today. We don't have our regular intro this morning because we're all remote, so we do apologize about that. But we thank you all for tuning in with us. Got a nice little topic today Zach came up with, and I'm eager to talk about it. And I did not discuss it when it came up in conversation. So should be good today. Should be good today. All right, Zach, what you got for us, baby?
We were talking about the difference between, working and working hard. Um, I this entire weekend I spent burning a fence, to get where I needed to get my fence up, and digging post holes and uh, raking out all the dirt, shoveling dirt. It always makes me think of people who work to get by. They go to their job, they do the bare minimum of what they have to do, not
Okay.
realizing that there's a whole nother world out there of having to work harder to get ahead. And I imagine Vaughn there knows that more than anybody. You got another guy that's looking at your position. You better be working hard in order to stay.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. That's that's a little situational though. Once, yeah, I think we've taught that. I think we taught that if we work harder, that uh, we'll have some type of reward at the end. And I don't know if that's always necessarily true once we get older. Once you add in the politics of things, that kind of changes it up a little bit. Because I had some situations where I was working hard, and the other guys are working just as hard as I was. But I think it comes down to as far as my situation is concerned. And when we're talking about sports, it comes down to who gets paid more a whole lot of times, and so you can outplay somebody and outwork somebody and still be on the bench,
Because of how
unfortunately.
much because of money.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
because of money and so or what we like to say, how much money they have invested into a
Mhm.
player. So, uh, but at the when you get down to the nitty gritty of things, just talking about working hard versus working hard or whatever, I do believe that that you do have a better result. You have a better result for somebody who puts it all in.
One of the things that Mafia and I were talking about is, how out in Tyler, and I don't know if Tyler Pipe's even still around or not, but they hire 50 people to fill anywhere between 3 to 5 positions because they know the majority are going to quit.
Not gonna make it.
They're not going to make it. And
Yeah,
so, I was for maybe a year, I was out there, and I got onboarded with a whole bunch of guys, and me and one other guy made it, out of probably 30, 40 people. And it's just, people who aren't willing to work. So the money out there was ridiculous. You got guys out there making $80,000 a year. Just no education, no nothing. You get out there, you do your little bit of time and make your money. And you watch these guys leave at the end of their shift. They're covered in black soot and smell horrible and everything else. And then payday comes around. These guys show up in, brand new Mercedes, brand new BMWs to pick up their massive checks. But it's the difference between, they have to hire so many people because people don't, even though the jobs pay well enough, you know, they don't want to do what it takes to make the money. They just want to make enough money to get by. You know, we have a surplus in DFW of actual construction jobs that are paying, $20, $25, $30 an hour, they can't get anybody to fill because it's hard work and nobody wants to put the time in to make, $20, $25, $30 an hour. And that's, I was just thinking about that as my back was hurting. I was worn out. I got sunburned, just doing what has to be done for the result that I want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get both of you guys. And so the part of the topic that stood out to me, well, when the topic was posed to me, the part that I thought about was like guys like you two and myself, we were trained or bred or we were cultured into working hard from whatever aspect of our life, whether it was childhood and things of that nature, as opposed to some people wasn't. So I think that would play a large part in, you know, how much your integrity and things you're gonna put into, working hard. It's like
But
if
why,
you,
how did we get there? I mean, obviously it comes down to your parents. I mean, I don't know about you,
yeah,
but when I was 10 years old, I was pushing a lawnmower.
hmm
I was doing my own
hmm
laundry.
Yeah.
I was. My dad used to make a joke, and I don't think he really meant it. I think it really was a joke. But I had a son so that I didn't have to mow the lawn.
yeah,
Yeah,
And it
it's
was a
cool like
joke. I don't think he really was like that. But the point is you're gonna participate. You're gonna work. You're gonna
Well, you got to
yeah,
learn how to
I-
serve before you lead. So,
I-
I think that's when you have kids, you got to teach them how to listen and follow. Follow directions and
mhm.
all that stuff. So, I put every last one of my sons on lawnmower, and I don't have a problem with it. With a
lawn
a
duty.
problem with it. If you don't do it, I'm gonna do it. And I always had this saying: if I got to do it, what I got you around here for? You know,
Right.
you know what I mean? I don't need you. I don't need you to have because I can do it myself. But the
hmm
the the, the ultimate objective is just to teach them a lesson and teach
Yes,
them the ways how to be successful in society and make it and be independent on your own, right?
of
Yeah,
course.
and I
And,
mean, one of my best examples of that is I had a guy who worked for me installing satellites and called me up and said, "Hey, man, I can't do this install." It was at a trailer for a Dish Network. I can't do this install today because it rained and there was water under the trailer. So I turned around, I got the address, went out there, put on my rain suit, crawled up under there, drilled all those holes, ran all those lines. I got out from up under there and told him, "Don't ever call me again with that.
hmm
Go buy you a rain
hmm
suit." It's and he never did. I mean, from that point on, I never heard anything from Gavin about having to, crawl up under a wet trailer.
Hey
But
Zach, I'm sorry, pardon the
no, go
interruption.
ahead.
I want to commend you for your action that you did. And what I mean by that, it's a lot of people, some of them people we talked about their integrity to work that's in management positions or upper level positions that someone on a basic level will say, I can't. And they'll go, the upper management people will give them some type of tongue lashing and things of that nature. But you actually went out physically in his presence and gave him a living
Did the job for him
example.
and didn't ask for anything.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like, I can show you better than I tell you is one of my life's mantras. And I think that's so much more impacting on a individual by showing them an example of how to, you know what I'm saying, persevere through something or just get through adversity. And
Yeah.
again, I just want to commend you for that. And that's for my listeners as well. And, we talk about being parents, we talk about and be employees and business owners and all these different kind of things. It's one thing to verbally say something, but it's a whole nother thing to actually physically teach or train someone by a
Absolutely.
living example. So I just wanted to, man, definitely touch
Well,
on that real quick.
the thing with that, the biggest thing that I gained out of that was actually a lot of things. Number one, I now had a technician on staff that would say, don't call Zach about wet trailers. The second
Mhm.
part is I'm not going to ask you to do something I'm not willing to do myself. I mean,
Okay.
that is 100% a fact. I'm
Or
not going
that
to.
you can't do.
Right. And so, you talked about mowing the lawn and things like that, we had days, and everybody had a day where they mowed the lawn, and I was no different. One weekend I would mow the lawn, the next weekend one of the other kids would mow the lawn, next weekend somebody else would mow the lawn. So that it was only once every 5 weeks you had to mow the lawn, but I even took a turn. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to ask you to do this, and I'm not going to do it. It was, I'm going to have mine, show you how it's done. I always did it. That was the one thing. Every year at the beginning of the year, the first mowing was done by me, because I wanted to make sure that I'm now not going to ask you to do something that I haven't done already.
Exactly. I'd like to speak to something you said about the benefit of you going out and doing that job for that technician, and now you have a voice to say, "Don't call Zach." To me, that
No,
is
it's not.
just
Don't call me. It's it's you're going to call me. I'm going to tell you to call Gavin and have Gavin answer that question.
Yeah, but what that said to me was you're setting standards. You understand what I'm saying? You're building a foundation where, you know, what better example to see when, okay, you got standards, you got structure in place, and things can run smoothly because now there's an understanding. You understand what I'm saying? As
Right.
opposed to, like, I give the analogy, it's like whatever you do in life, it's like getting a new dog, right? You know what I'm saying? You got a new house, you got a new dog, but you're yet to get a backyard fence. Okay. Now, you let your dog out into the backyard with no fence, but you get upset when the dog runs through the neighborhood. Whereas if you set a perimeter or you set boundaries or a foundation where that gate was up, then the dog couldn't go even if they wanted to. I mean, you have situations where dogs big enough to jump over, but again, you set a standard or a foundation. And I think that's huge in life, man, because so many times we just, think things are gonna happen through osmosis, or being a parent, your kids are just gonna get it just because you talk to them. And I've learned from being a parent, being a husband, being out in the world that, a lot of times people don't want to hear me talk, man. And so I came up with the mantra: I can show you better than I tell you, because I don't have time to waste my energy on telling
Right.
you and talking to you when you've done tuned me out in 20 seconds of a 5-minute conversation. Then I ask you, do you understand? And you tell me, yeah. But then we have to go through it again. So, that's it is what it is, but that's life,
Well, and you
man,
have,
what we go through.
you have an entire, group of people out there that think they graduate high school and maybe go to college and they're supposed to be the CEO of a company, but they haven't put in any effort whatsoever, with a company or the experience that goes along with it. And it just amazes me. You hear about the minimum wage needing to be, $15 an hour or something along those lines, a living wage. Well, McDonald's and Burger King weren't meant to be a living wage. All those jobs were created for kids.
For kids. Yes.
You're supposed to move forward, not sit at, they had the deal during the campaign many years ago about the lady in Chicago making, I think she was making like $9 an hour. I've been working at McDonald's for like 7 years. And it's just like, well, I need to make more money. Well, you shouldn't be working at McDonald's. You need to get out there.
You don't think the significance of fast food has changed from its original idea? You don't think its position and its importance into our everyday society now? You don't think it has changed from its original idea? I would like to think from the original McDonald's that was made from me watching the movie. Yeah, I watched that movie. It was pretty good.
All right.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I would like to think that just from seeing things from the outside looking in, that the fast food industry is a pillar in the everyday life of the average family right now. There's a lot of people that's not cooking, and these lines be out of control, like all day. I'm like, and I don't know if it was like that back then, but they working the hell out of a lot of these people now. So I don't. She may have, those people that's bitching and complaining about it might have a valid point to a certain, to a certain extent. But that's my question.
But
you
remember,
got
your your
I like
your 99-cent double cheeseburger is going to be $3.99 if she's now getting 3 times the amount of wages.
hell. It is
So
okay,
$3.99.
a
and I'm glad you
99-cent
said
double
that.
cheeseburger is 99 cents. Now
Uh,
maybe the Von Solo
That ain't the same.
cheeseburger where you
That
got
ain't
to
the
buy
same 99-cent burger.
you got to
99
buy
cent
4 of
burger.
them. Yeah, that
99
99-cent
cent
burger
burger
it
went up
used to
to
be this big.
$2.99, and
It
yeah,
the
used to be this
99
big.
cent burger is this big.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it's a castle slider at this
that's
point.
exactly what it is. The original
But
99-cent
remember,
burger is now on the
remember
meal deal. It's on the meal
something
list.
that's this big to you, Vaughn, is like this big to me. So remember that.
Hey, and I want to point this out too. We
We got
might
the
want to be
same
mindful.
throat. But,
Yeah, he say the same through. I just want to point this out for not just us on the panel. I'm sorry, on the podcast, but even for our listeners to be mindful of evolution, because evolution plays a part in that. And I'll tell you why, in my opinion. Times have changed. The cost of living has gone up, and then you have people that's struggling. And just to name a few, some of these parents with multiple kids, single parent homes, people getting out of jail. Yeah, they're adults, but they have to take this job now. You understand what I'm saying? And even though it goes back to, something you said earlier about Zach, about working hard and just propelling yourself. Some people use it as a stepping stone, but some people, hey, this is what it is, and I'm
But
fine
it's
with it.
not what it is. But they're not fine with it because they want more money. And then,
But it,
here's what we had during the pandemic. And I actually talked to a guy who worked for a mortgage company who was telling me that he can't find anybody to work at a mortgage company. They have an office that holds 2,000 people, and only like 100 and something of them are actually coming into the office during COVID, right?
mhm.
And so we were talking about it, and I said, well, what would happen if you hired somebody? Because they were actively trying to hire people, and they started coming into the office. And he said, let me tell you right now, if I hired somebody and they started coming in the office, odds are they would outrank the people who refuse to come in because they're getting FaceTime with the CEO, the CMO, the COO. We have had a massive opportunity for people who are just entering the work market that can go in there and write their own tickets. You know, I was doing contract work at a mortgage company doing their IT, and they couldn't find people. They could not find people to work. They started out, we're starting people out at $50,000 a year. Didn't really have to have a ton of knowledge. Then it turned into 55. Then it turned into 60. Then it turned into 65 because they couldn't find anybody to do it. So if you're working at McDonald's, you're working some crappy job. I mean, there are headhunters out there. I get emails all day long from headhunters. I got this person. I got this person. There's plenty of work out there. You just got to get off your ass and be willing to go into an office.
Now for Zach, you a
just
crappy
something
job
strange
for
to do a
you.
little change.
Huh?
Yeah.
We call
What'd
it
you say,
doing
Vaughn?
something strange for change.
Now, even if it's strange or even it's a crappy job to us, it may be life changing for some people. 30 years old to work at McDonald's, to have a job. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just speaking about some of the numerous people, hundreds of thousands of people that, you know, grew up on the streets and really didn't have anything. Foreigners coming over, just trying to make a new living, living the quote unquote American way. It may be crappy jobs to us. It may be strange to us, but it may be life changing for some people. So be mindful that we all different and we have different circumstances and situations. But I understand, bro. Like, and like I said, like that young lady you mentioned about wanting to be paid more. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? To work two jobs can tear apart, time from things of her priority, being a mother, being at home, being with kids, spending time. That is valuable things. And we place different values on different things because values are, you know, for the individual, but at the same time, man, we got to be mindful that hey, this could be heaven for some people just to have a job that's legal.
then
You know what I mean?
that's but you can't sit there and say, oh, I need to make more money when you're choosing. I had a girl many years ago that said, waiters or servers or whatever should get XYZ. And I'm like, so I have to work hard to make my money to do to move forward.
Hmm.
Why should they, get paid more? Well, because it makes them happy. Well, if we all took jobs that made us happy, my concrete wouldn't have gotten done. Because I guarantee, those guys don't want to dig ditches by hand. Those guys don't want to stand in concrete and get on their hands and knees and finish concrete. It's not their ideal job, but they do it to put food on the table, to move forward, to get ahead. And so
Hmm.
we're basically saying, well, McDonald's fits your whatever, your lifestyle, but then you want to complain because you don't make enough money. Well, get out there and find a better job. They're out there. People just don't want to do them because they're harder than, dipping fries in oil and flipping hamburgers. Well, but
Hey,
that's why they pay more money, is because they're not as cushy as that. So
hey Zach,
that's the
And
difference.
then some of them you got to do your time too,
yeah,
and some of
Especially
them
McDonald's. If
you
you've been
got to
at
go to
McDonald's,
school.
if
Some
you
of them
haven't
you
been at
have to go to
McDonald's for
school
7 years
first.
and you're not at least an assistant manager, you need to move on from McDonald's.
Right.
If you're not moving forward after 7 years at McDonald's, you need to move on.
Hell, it ain't gonna be that long for me.
It wouldn't be.
hey,
I ain't flipping. Nah, it's just some
say no
things I'm not willing to do that. Well,
again.
I'm saying only if I have. If the situation you got
Yeah,
to,
if you had to.
there's nothing that
Yes.
some things you just have to do. But some things come with requirements that need to be met. You can't ask to be paid more. You don't meet the requirements or the minimum requirements. Like I say, some of them you have to have certain experience and you have to have degrees and stuff to be in these positions. So
When
you're gonna have
and
to give up something
so
a lot of the
Cameron
situations.
Cameron's
Hey,
a great example. He started working at that restaurant, and you know the work ethic. You know, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. So I met his boss, and his boss told me, he's like, "Man, I have never seen anybody like Cameron." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "First of all, who taught Cameron how to use a commercial mop?" I'm like, "Well, we use one at home because it's just faster. I don't use it because it's cleaner. It's 10 times faster using a commercial mop when you have a ton of hardwood floors."
yeah.
And he said, that is the best worker I've ever seen in my life, because he's always wiping something down, mopping the floor, cleaning something up, and I'm like, well, but and so in the end, though, he became an assistant manager, then he became the shift manager, and then he moved forward because, exactly like you said before, it's a matter of, you can't tell somebody to mop the floor if you're not willing to mop the floor. You can't tell
Yeah.
somebody to do something if you're not willing to do it yourself. And that
Right.
was, I mean, he worked. They love him. I mean, he still works shift there. He didn't even work there anymore, and they call him up and say, "Hey, we got a shift for you. Can you work it?"
Hey Zach, I'd like to speak to the comment you made about the server. And this is a personal experience for me because I was a server, the server that asked for more money. I'm not sure if you're aware, but in Texas, we made $2.14 an hour.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I
And
because we're going to get into an argument that I have had with, because you got to remember, Kim works in the service industry.
mhm,
I have had this argument 100%, and you are correct. You work off of tips. So
two
here
dollars
was
and
my
fourteen
right.
cents. And
No,
so
no, I
think
get you,
about,
because you
I,
get tips.
yeah, but at the same time, what happens when you have these customers come in and they don't have tip etiquette or tip intelligence, and they want to give you $5 on $100 bill or $5 on a two hundred
Yep.
dollar bill? You understand what
And
I'm saying?
have you
And,
heard what New York's doing? The city of New York, there's like 5 restaurants that were started by a guy that they make salary. There is no such thing as a tip at that restaurant. They're not allowed to take tips. They're not allowed none of it, because he has basically rolled how whatever the percentage is the gratuity into
Their pay.
the into their meal. So
Right.
It's a,
if
okay,
it was
so
a $20 meal, then there's 20% or 30%, whatever. He just raised the price of his food, and it's included
okay.
100%. And then they do get bonuses based on reviews from the customers.
Yeah. Okay. And that's one situation where, what I'm saying, gratuity is automatically applied. Now,
Mhm.
in this restaurant, it was only in situations where, how on the number of people of the party that situation where they applied the
Right.
automatic gratuity. But at the same time, what I'm saying, what if you're not one of the servers that can take a large party and you're just starting out, or you've been there, what I'm saying, a little bit of time, and you're not getting these automatic
What if you're
gratuity
not any good
tables?
at your job? I
I was
still have to
amazing
tip
at my
you.
job.
How
But
about
I was
that?
that's not
amazing
what
at
I'm
my job.
asking. I'm not. I see 5 viewers on here, so I hope she's not watching because I've had this argument, and she
Okay.
will. People that I know who are or servers, and I tip very well, but am I supposed to? So, and here's what she would say. I would say, if you give me crappy service, am I still supposed? Well, yeah, because that's how they make their money. So wait a minute. So I still have to tip you if you give me crappy service. Yes. Why? You gave me
I
crappy
disagree.
service.
I
Why?
disagree.
What? You disagree with what?
I disagree with you have to tip them.
Well, she would tell you, but sounds like Mafia the reminder when she says this. She
And I
would
get it.
tell you you don't know what's going on with their life. Well, what does that have to do with me? I'm there to they may have something going on and they're having a bad day. Okay, so why do I have to suffer? Go home. Don't work that day. If you got something going on in your life and you're having a bad day, then go home.
Okay, now let me throw this perspective at you. You say you got bad service. Okay, what aspect of the service was bad? Because if it's something that the server did directly, I can understand that. Not being attentive, not cleaning off the table, not doing something like that. But food coming out cold, food coming out late, that's outside the control of a server. So I hope you're not taking those aspects and saying, "Oh, you're a poor server." You understand what I'm saying? Just some things to think about because some of that stuff
No.
be
I
beyond
know
our
exactly what
control.
you're
And
talking
I'm just
about,
trying to
but
put it in
no.
perspective
But
for
see,
you
now
from a
you're
person
talking
that did
about
this.
no. But now you're talking about communication. Now you're talking about your server coming up to you and saying, "Hey, I apologize. The kitchen got backed up," or "Hey, this happened." I know that most of the times servers, just because I've worked, done AV in a ton of restaurants, most of the time, if you go to your manager and say, "Look, these guys have been waiting. It's a mistake. Can we give them an app?" I mean, I've had so many times. I've had a few times where they've said, the appetizer you ordered, we're just it's gonna be free. We apologize of how long it's taken for your food. Bam. You know,
I
you're
get it.
talking about communication. I'm talking about
I get it.
somebody when I'm sitting over there and my drink is empty and I'm looking at you and you're on your phone sitting there typing away on your phone or giggling with your little servers and I got an empty cup or I got trash all over my table. No, that's bad service. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. And I get that. I totally get that. Like I said, if it's something you visibly see, okay. But then again, I think tipping, the same way you say communication is a skill, tipping, in my opinion, is a skill.
So as servers, rise up.
To what
Rise up
level?
and say, "Hey, we're not going to do it anymore. We all quit."
You mean collectively or just individually
I mean,
to level up?
again, how many 50-year-old servers do you know? I know very few of them.
Bro, I know servers that was 35 plus that had degrees that
You
were
might need to
lawyers
get
and
you might need to get a different job.
Well,
but at the same time, think
what
about
You don't
this.
restaurant
like
it
it,
is.
but if you don't like
You
it, move on.
Who
That's
right.
just
said they
it.
didn't like it? Who said they didn't like it? Because I'll tell you
So
that
there's no complaint then.
when I was a server, I was making more money than school teachers in Texas. I
Ah,
had I was a teacher. I
Mm.
was a teacher in Illinois. Okay, came to Texas, and I had to get recertified to be teaching and coaching. Right. So when I found out how much teachers were making, me as a server was making more money than the teachers in the state of Texas.
Right. Even with the every so often you get the $5 tipper, you were still making more money. So if you take all that money and you average it together, even though that one person only, or those 10 people only gave you $5, or I'm sorry, yeah, $5 on 100, you were still making good money. That's the point. Yes, you're
Five
going to get
dollars
the people. Man, you're going
On
to
a
get the
hundred.
people who do it, but
on a
still on
hundred.
average, you're still making good money.
$5 on 100, bro, is not good money.
No.
It's
That's you.
not good money.
You're not listening. You're the one who told me you would have somebody come in and give you $5 on $100 tab.
Plenty
Correct?
of times.
But
Plenty
when
of
you
times.
average it with the people who are paying you well, some people go over, some people hit the line, and some people go under. When you
Mhm.
average all of that money together, you were still making more than a school teacher. So suck,
Suck it up,
Chad,
Buttercup.
suck it up,
You sound
Buttercup. Get
you
over a
sound
$5
you
person.
you sound so American. You sound
It
so
is,
American
because
from a
anybody who
capitalistic
doesn't
society.
like it, no, because that's the point. If you don't like working in McDonald's, then work at McDonald's and find another job. Yes, you're going to have to work harder. It may be more physical, it may be more mental, it may be one of those things, but have the willingness to work harder to either make more money or to get ahead. If you're working at McDonald's, McDonald's gives scholarships to their employees. Go to night school, get a degree, become a manager. Hell, you can in the end own a McDonald's. You hear it all the time. The guys who worked at McDonald's when they were kids and ended up, owning their own McDonald's. But you better put forth some effort. You can't just say, "Well, I go in, I do my job, I go home."
I know a guy
Oh,
that started off sweeping and mopping floors and owns a Chick-fil-A now. Ain't that
Thank
okay,
something?
you.
It's a
okay,
black guy
Thank
too. It's
you.
a black
okay.
guy too. And
Thank you.
it's a
They had to
absolutely
hit their quota.
amazing story. It may be one of the more random stories that you might,
No, it's not, but it fits. It fits
But
exactly what we're
I'm
talking
saying,
about.
yeah. I mean, it's proven time and time again, over and over again here in our society, that if you work hard, that good things will happen to you. In a lot of
Okay.
situations,
Okay.
does it blanket every situation? No,
No.
but I teach my sons more times out of none that you working hard and being in the right place, well, at least doing what you're supposed to do, or it'll at least put you in the right area. You may not know exactly what you're doing or where you're going, but a lot of times it'll put you in the presence of the right people.
When I tell
So
you this, Kim mowed lawns, and I'm just going to say her first name. Kim started mowing lawns at a golf course, then she became the manager of the golf course.
Okay.
And then she got offered another job doing sales. I mean, that is a ridiculous woman, but she's done that. She's worked at bars and they've offered her management positions and she doesn't want them. She's like, I make more money bartending and I don't have the whole hassle. But in the end, she worked hard and had the opportunity to move forward. If you work hard, you have the opportunity to move forward. But here's the caveat to what Vaughn's saying. There's some businesses you can't move forward in.
I was
absolutely,
That
just
means,
about to say.
but
absolutely.
that means, just like I did, I ended up leaving Tyler because I knew there was no way for me to continue moving forward there, and I moved to Fort Worth. I worked my butt off. I saved up money. I found a job here digging ditches. That was the second to worst job I've ever had in my life,
Third.
digging ditches. So that I could move here. 2 weeks later, because I was looking for another job while digging ditches, I found a job that paid more money with work that wasn't as hard. But Jake and I dug ditches all the way until 2011, and we were finally at a point where, okay, we're making enough money now, we can have them hire somebody to dig their own ditches. I'll never forget the house that it happened on, because we were digging through rock and flower mound, And I was like, man, I don't want to dig ditches anymore. And we did the math. We were making enough money that we could look at somebody and say, you know, I'm not digging any more ditches. So
Right.
if you can't move ahead, move on.
Okay. And I get that. But what happens when a lot of people don't have the intelligence to move on? I'll give you an example. If I had at this particular restaurant where I was a server, right? And I will say, and this is no beating on the chest, you can ask any person that sat at my table and received my service. I was an extraordinary server. I was way above what a server was to this particular company. And they're all over the South. Okay. And I won't say any names, but I became a trainer just because I had a desire to help people around me become what I was. And what that was is, even on a slow night, I was making money because of me. I felt I was an entertainer. Anyone that sat in my table, in my section around me,
You are Mafia.
they were entertained.
I mean,
This wasn't,
you have, and I think, I don't know if we're talking about people that actually have recognized their skills and talent. I mean, and that goes for everybody. You're good at what you do. You're a great communicator and talker. You don't mind,
thank you.
doing. I think those people that move up and and move up fast into management, they possess those skills, and it goes back to the foundation of what are your parents and what you're learning at home. What you're learning at home, learning how to work hard, listen and follow instructions and directions is something that you learn at home. I think a lot of times now what we're getting a lot of kids that's just bums that's working these jobs. It's like, you're having to learn basic skills at school and on the job. So your learning is coming from your teachers, and your learning is coming from your bosses at work, rather than you being taught that at home. That's what's happening in a lot of these places now, and we
But
get
it also
terrible
comes from your
service.
trainer.
Absolutely.
Comes
Yeah.
from your trainer, Mafia.
Yeah, and I get
And
that.
that's the
But
point.
so what happens when I'm this model server in this establishment? Customers come in, call in, email, corporate, all this kind of stuff. All my peers around me see me, and they like, you're just great, right? So I inquired with the general manager about applying to be a manager, right? And it wasn't about the money because I was making more money than the managers. I just felt I had something to offer this
And to
corporation,
move
not
forward.
just
Yeah.
and to move forward. And he tells me, in a nutshell, no, I wasn't able to advance. Outside of being a trainer, that was the only thing I was allowed to do out,
So you
serving and
move on.
training. I saw kids coming in, man, that they get all these positions and all this. And I did eventually move on, but at the same time, I did the hard work. I put into my craft. I was extraordinary, and I'm not saying this because I felt it. I'm saying it because it was told to me.
But you've also padded your resume. I was a server. I became a trainer. I mean, that is, so when you go somewhere else, you're not starting from the bottom, because you can go in there, prove your knowledge, prove what you can do, and move forward. And you're right. It is 100% the reason that I left and came to Fort Worth is because I wasn't, mostly everything out there was mom and pop owned. It was family owned who had sons and daughters who were going to be the owners and managers. So it wasn't one of those things where,
Nepotism tree.
oh no, even though they were boo boo is all get out, it didn't matter. I wasn't going to go anywhere. So I chose to go somewhere that I had more opportunity. And even if that's within, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't like, it wasn't like one day I had all this money in the bank and I turned around and moved to Fort Worth. It was a plan. It took me almost a year of working my butt off, not spending money, getting enough money to move to Fort Worth and slide right into, I literally moved in, wasn't even unpacked, and started work the next day and made good money. Digging ditches in DFW, if you want crap work, it pays pretty good money. You can make $1,500 a week digging ditches because nobody wants to do it.
Who the hell
So,
would?
yeah, it's some
And
crap
especially
work.
during the summertime.
Yeah, which is when I moved here. Was in the middle of the damn summer.
Did you talking about with a tool in your hand, or are you talking about riding on a bobcat?
Nope, they're called Wampers.
What's that?
It's a shovel that's flat, and you slam it into the ground, and you move it back and forth, and it creates a V in the ground.
Oh,
The problem is if you're doing that in Flower Mound or up north,
it's all
it's
rock.
So you're basically sitting there, you know. Now the guys who got, you know, who had been there a while, they'd go out and rent, you know, ditch witches.
Okay.
But you had to be there because the company would rent you one. But you know, just like with anything, they want to make sure you're going to stick around before they turn around and put you in charge of, you know, a $4,000 piece of equipment. So, but again, it lasted 2 weeks. I found a better job and I took it. And then
You dug ditches
you know,
for 2 weeks?
I dug ditches for 2 weeks.
I thought you made it sound like it was 6 months.
Nope. But then I was installing satellites, which is not easy work, climbing through attics in the middle of the summer. And I mean, I did that for years.
So
I still do that today.
Could you make it past 2 weeks in ditch digging?
Yeah, if I hadn't gotten such a good job offer, I would have kept going. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I would have kept going.
I'm just making sure all the air went out the balloon when you left. That's all I'm saying.
Nope. Well, because installing satellites in Texas is probably just as bad as digging ditches because, you know, come June, July, and August, when you're climbing through an attic, it's 100 degrees outside. It's 130 in an attic. And you're covered in sweat and insulation. You know, you come out coughing up, you know, black insulation and pink insulation, and you know, you're standing out in the sun and you're installing these dishes. It's just as bad, but it paid more money. That was the whole point, is it paid more money, so I kept doing it. Plus it gave me a list of clientele to do all the AV work that I now do permanently.
Okay. Hey,
but
and I like to
asbestos in your lungs.
I most likely I have absolutely no doubt.
You gotta use every bit of that $1,500 to help clean up
my mesothelioma.
Lungs now. That's the only thing about it.
Not the mesothelioma.
Yeah, mesothelioma.
Hey, so
it is about working hard, you know, to get what you want. You can't go to work at Walmart and think I'm supposed to get more money. You're working at Walmart. If you're not trying to get ahead by going to school, by doing the things, suck it up, Buttercup. I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
It's not my fault.
I like to throw an experience at you guys. So, and it talks to that, you know, if this job isn't working for you, move on or level up, right? So if I had to guess, the industry that I'm in now, the field of work that I do has to be $1 billion industry, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm with this company, and you know, I go in and they say, okay, do this for a year, then you'll move on to the next tier, you know what I'm saying, move on to be a lead, start as a technician, move on, be a lead, so on and so forth. You'll be doing certain tasks that you can't do now. We don't know if you can do now because you have no experience. In a year, you'll be able to do it, right? And again, I got the same integrity and extraordinary desire to excel and get better. So I go to this job and I'm growing, right? And I'm asking to do things. They say, okay, I'll try you, but you know, it happens. But then I'm not permanently doing it. So then some new guys come in, about 4 of them, right? And now these guys are doing things in 3 months that I'm still yet to do in a year. And I'm saying this to say the psychological aspect that you have to deal with leveling up. There's way more money. You understand what I'm saying? It's an industry that the world wouldn't be what it is without it. But there's a lot of dysfunction. There's not a lot of structuring. Communication sucks.
Have you, you know, I told this story before, but this is my grandfather's deal. You know, when you don't have a job, your full-time job is to find a job, first job you get. And if you don't like the job you find first, you have a full-time job that pays your bills and a part-time job looking for the job you want. So my question then becomes, have you sought other companies? Because what you do, I know for a fact, because I have done some of it, because my industry is moving into more of doing what you're talking about, because of the amount of information that can flow through it. There are companies out there that are paying, very well. I mean, and it's just a matter of, have you sought other opportunities?
And I'll be totally honest, I haven't, and I've had opportunities being presented to me in the same industry. I've just yet to pursue them.
I mean, I know for a fact there's an oil company right now paying $30 an hour. You only get 40 hours a week. It's Monday through Friday, doing IT work. And it's not complicated IT work. It's,
okay.
Most people, they view IT work as what we consider level one. Most IT work, let me give you an example. The contract work that I did, if you went to another company identical to them into the same position, I got a better one for you. Let's go. I didn't know this because I was looking at getting my pilot's license, and I didn't know this. Right. Even if you get your pilot's license, when you buy a plane, you have to go through their class on how to fly that plane. Let's say you turn around and
the manufacturer has a class? The manufacturer has a class, or the
Yes. No, the manufacturer has a class. So you have to go to that class in order to fly that plane. Now, just the simple single engines you don't have to do if they're basic. But once you move into different planes, you have to take, like these commercial pilots, if Boeing puts out a new plane, they have to be trained. That was one of the things that didn't happen with all the issues with all the
737.
They weren't requiring them to go through that training, and they should have been, because then they would have known when that alarm goes off, you flip this switch. But they didn't.
And it got
so it's the same thing. If you were to go from
killed,
2 planes,
death.
But when you go into an entry level position for IT, they just need to know that you have the basic knowledge, because most of the time, let's say you go swap out a server, that server's already programmed. It's already got all the information. They ship it to you, but you do need the idea of, okay, I need to unplug it in this. I need to do this. I need to do this before I remove it out of the rack. Put in the new one. Do this before I do this. Do this before I do this. But there are tons of IT jobs out there. Tons of them that pay great money.
Yeah, and I get it. But I fell into the thing of, man, if this what I'm gonna get from this world, let me go and start my own business. And that's why, I became a certified life coach, mindfulness coach, to run my own business, because I don't see it being no different, in my experiences in dealing with employers.
And they're not even teaching that. A lot of schools, they're not even teaching that anymore. They're taking
What's that, Vaughn? Teaching what?
Well, they're taking out a lot of the career technical training classes in most of the inner city schools, like they used to have when you had auto mechanics and you had computer aided drafting,
woodwork,
fluid mechanic, wood shop, and all that. They're taking those classes out and put us more so in classes that drive us to go to school, which is part of America's agenda, is to send us to school and put people in debt, as opposed to us having skills that actually help us make it on a day-to-day basis for jobs that's that's more being more realistic for people in certain areas. So instead of coming out of school with certifications like you should be, if you don't want to go to school, and there's a lot of us that didn't want to go to school, keep the career and technical education classes in school. Have things in there. Now they have them available in certain schools, but that's not available to all the kids that's in the inner cities. And so some of those classes that teach those skills and had a training to get you those certifications so you could come out working and be a productive citizen. They don't have those available in the schools anymore. Instead,
a lot of that though is experience.
yeah, but I'm still
I
saying,
knew a
in the
welder
area
who,
we don't have those classes anymore. They taking them
well,
out, and you gave us algebra, and you gave us motherfucking speaking French. It's like, fuck,
Yeah.
we can barely speak English good. What the fuck you giving me French for? Or what are you giving me algebra for? You ought to let us master basic math first. Now, you know what I mean? Master something, something that we're gonna be using when we come out, so we can have
a
some
skill
skills
set,
to work. Yeah,
a
give me
skill
Exactly.
something
set.
so I can come out and get me a job versus saying, hey, I got this piece of paper. I took Spanish fucking 5 and I still can't even write in Spanish.
Yeah, I actually have
Yeah.
kids that took an entire 4 years of Spanish and can't speak a lick
And
of it.
don't know nothing. Not saying it's not important, because it is to a certain degree, just the basic stuff, basic math and basic Spanish. All this other stuff, if you're not going to school, if you're not planning on going to get a higher education as far as in school, these kids need to be in career and technical education stuff. You know what I mean?
Well,
That's
and I'm good with that. One of the things, let's say I know somebody who's a kid who wants to be a mechanic. The first thing I would tell him to do is, you got to make a choice. Do you just want to be a mechanic, or do you want to own the mechanic shop? Because if you want to own the mechanic shop, there's a good chance you need to go to college in order to know how to run that business. But even if not, if you become a good enough mechanic, you can hire an accountant. You can hire the people to do it. But let's say you're a kid and you want to be a mechanic. I'm going to tell you, during the summers, you need to go work in a mechanic shop. Even if all you're doing is sweeping floors, you need to be there. Next thing you
absolutely.
need to do is
I get it.
go work at Jiffy Lube changing oil. It's nothing, but it's still something that has to do with the area.
Experience.
Right.
But that's the deal. It's shit work. Changing oil is crap work, but you get out there and you do it and you put in your time. When you graduate high school, I knew a welder that went straight out of high school and spent 2 years in welding school, and he said it was the most worthless thing he ever did. I was like, what do you mean, man? He goes, man, they don't care. When you get on site, they basically tell you, we need you to do 4 welds. Well, that to that with this kind of weld. Well, that to that with this kind of weld. Well, that to that this kind of weld. They make him do a whole bunch of welds. He goes out there and does them, and he said nobody has ever asked for his certificate for welding. He's like, I should have been doing hands-on more. I should have been out there, standing behind a welder, having a guy who's been doing this for 20 years show me how to do it. Same thing goes with mechanic. Eventually, after sweeping floors and doing all that stuff, they're going to be like, hey, man, hand me that tool. What you doing? And you learn. It's how I learned what I do, was looking over the shoulder of a guy named Scott and learning how to do it. He never taught me anything. It was a matter of learning it. Now, every once in a while, he'd be like, well, in order for this to happen, you would do this. And, but it was really learning by doing it. And then you have to have the drive to get out there and learn more. Like what you do, Mafio,
Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy though, Zach, because I remember as you were talking, I remember when I had just gotten out of college, and I'm trying to find that job in my career field. Now, I had some experience that was, again, extraordinary and very pertinent to these industries of, sociology, psychology, counseling, things of this nature, teaching, coaching, where my experience wasn't even taken into account, in my opinion. They looked at my degree and said, okay, you need a master's. Well, you didn't even assess my knowledge or my experience or my capabilities and skills to fulfill the job. You just automatically say I need a master's. I understand master's, what I'm saying, is another higher level, another level of study. But at the same time, this system, man, kills us because people go to college, man, and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and can't even find a job. But what you're gonna
move on?
Yeah, you're gonna. But what about the people
you don't just go to
that
one
don't have the
place.
mental capacity to move on, or the mental intelligence to move on? You see what I'm saying?
But
That shit is tough, bro. It's a
Possible.
struggle. Whoever's
the
listening.
thing, but that's the thing I'm trying to get out of this is, if you're not happy with where you're at, you seek out, you know, I knew a guy who worked for a company who had a great degree, but he was working at this crap company doing something that had nothing to do with his degree. And I was like, well, you know, are you
That's
looking?
90% of us.
He goes, no. But he told me, I said, are you looking? He goes, oh yeah, I'm putting in, you know, at least 5 applications a week and going on interviews and everything else. It took him 8 months to find the job that he wanted, but he found it. Again, he had a full-time job that paid the bill and a part-time job looking for another job. It took him 8 months to do it, but he did it. And that's the point I'm trying to make with this is nobody's saying that overnight you're going to get what you want or what you're looking for, you know, but you got to get out there and work hard to do it.
Yeah. But everyone didn't have those parents that we had to teach us that accountability, responsibility, you know, perseverance. Everyone didn't have that, bro. And it's important to be mindful of that. You know what I'm saying? Let's reverse this about, okay, instead of having people on the bottom making the bottom money, what about the people that makes good money, great money, 6 figures, and they still fucked up with their job?
But this is about anybody who watches this. It's not happy. That's what I get what you're saying, but I view this as a learning experience, and hopefully, you know, somebody will see this that's like, oh my God, that is so true. I'm not happy with where I'm at. I need to. That's a good idea to get out there and do more and work harder. That's the point of what I'm trying to. I get what you're saying, that there are people out there that weren't taught. Well, this is your lesson.
The thing that pops up in my mind is, you know, what makes you stay if you're not comfortable, if you're not happy? What stops you? Where's the drive, you know, to do something else is the question. And I think sometimes, you know, a lot of us get stuck in that place where, you know, we don't even not only not know how to get out of there, I don't even know if the desire is there to push yourself out of there. Or maybe it is just not knowing. I think that's the question to me. Why would you stay at a job you did not like that, you know, that
or that was keeping you down?
It
was keeping you down.
Can I pose a question to that same thing? Have you guys ever experienced life where you felt optionless?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Think about these people that think about these people before you say that.
Yeah, but sometimes you create that too.
But think you had the mental capacity to create. A lot of people can't creatively think, let alone create a whole nother lane of life.
But it's not another. It's a parallel lane. You know, lane number 1 is where you're at. Lane number 2 is where I want to be. This one, you're where you're at is not going to change. It's going to be there because this is where you're at. But because I want something else or I want something more, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay in my lane, but I'm going to go ahead and create a second lane. And my second lane is going to be, this is where I want to go. This is where I'm at, but this is where I want to go. So what do I have to do to get where I want to go? Well, I got to get out there. I got to beat the streets and I have to find what I want.
Okay. And I know time is running down, but take your same scenario. You have your lane, right? Mm-hmm. All right. What if you can't even formulate a thought to have another lane and you feel optionless right here?
But you know what you want. You know that you want more opportunity. You know, there's a few things in there that you can say. I want more money. I want a job that does this. I want a job that does this. I want a job that has these things. So while you're still in your lane, you can still say, okay, well, I'm going to look for these things in another job. And you may take that job and it still doesn't fit, but that's a whole nother lane. You're still, you know, you were in this one and you moved into this one, but you're still not exactly where you want to be. So you're going to continue that upward, because to me, that's what I consider an upward movement. You know, I'm going to continue that upward movement until I either hit because everybody is going to hit a cap.
Okay.
once I hit that cap, and there is absolutely, I don't have a master's degree, I don't have this, but you may find a job that you're looking for where they're like, no, your degree's fine. It's where your experience outweighs a master's, or your experience, just like with being a mechanic or a welder. Nobody's going to. I had a technician one time that used to walk up to a house and said, I've taken all the classes, I've read all the books, now let's do it. And people would look at him like, what the hell? Because they don't want somebody who doesn't. And it was a joke. It was just his way of breaking the ice. I used to teach that after he told me he did that. I used to teach that to other guys. I'm like, it's about, it was doing satellite. It's about getting to that house and breaking the ice with his customers so that they feel comfortable. And he'd be like, I'm just kidding. I've been doing this for a few years. But it is, nobody wants a guy, if you have a doctor and the doctor's like, man, I just graduated from medical school, it's time to give you a new heart. You're going to be like, well, hold up, dude. You've never done this before? No. I don't want you operating on me.
From my studies, it tells me.
Yeah. So,
hey, look.
There comes a point where your experience outweighs your deal. So to me, to end this podcast, man, find the path that you want, work hard for it, and I promise you, if you work hard enough on it, it will pay off. And if where you're at doesn't pay off, just move over a little bit, find somebody who appreciates you, and hell, let's bankrupt all these. These companies won't have anybody that wants to work for them. I'm fine with that. Screw them all.
All right, Vaughn, you got something to close with, baby?
Yeah, I want to dig ditches.
All right.
Good luck. I'm out. I got a few you can dig. I got
hard work. I mean, when all else fails, man, I believe hard work and doing what you're supposed to do, and I think being at the right place at the right time matters. And sometimes that right place and right time is at your job where you got down, and you can move up. I mean, see if your job, research your job, and see if there is opportunities for you to move up. If not, hey man, procrastination is a disease too. Shit, I believe. Yeah. So don't get complacent at where you're at. Keep pushing.
Good point. And I just want to end by saying I want to speak to all these people that struggle with leveling up or moving on. From personal experience as a testimony, man. I just want to say, you might want to consider not looking outside and what the world can do for you, and consider looking inside of yourself and consider what you can do for the world. I think that would be a great avenue to start on trying to create new lanes and avenues for yourself. Because again, this is my testimony, and so much more works better for me when I start from the inside, where I can influence the world. Because this world, before I got to that point, it influenced me and it crushed me and had me in a tornado. And I'm not talking about in the eye. So with that being said, if you guys have nothing else, man, we can go ahead and close out.
We end with an offering.
All right. So with that being said, I thank you all for joining us, and welcome back to another amazing podcast from the People's Rebuttal Podcast. We have a great show Wednesday, so see us, man. I think it'll be very insightful, very, opening up your mind. And until then, I love y'all, and I see y'all Wednesday. Have a great